Nestled deep in the misty mountains, Whispering Hollow was a town that time forgot. Fog rolled in every evening, thick as soup. It clung to the pines and crept down the streets. The old-timers said the mist hid secrets, dark ones. They weren't wrong. Main Street was lined with weathered shops, their paint peeled in the damp air. A single traffic light swayed in the breeze. It cast eerie shadows on empty sidewalks. At night, the town fell silent. Only the whisper of wind through the pines broke the quiet. Tourists rarely came to Whispering Hollow. Those who did felt uneasy. Something in the air made their skin crawl. The locals were tight-lipped. They hurried home before dark. Children were kept indoors after sunset. No one wanted to be caught outside when night fell, for in Whispering Hollow, darkness brought more than just shadows. It brought the scent of bacon and eggs. A smell so tempting, so mouth-watering, it could lure the unwary to their doom. For this was the domain of a local legend, a figure whispered about in hushed tones, the Bacon and Egg Man. Once upon a time, Whispering Hollow had a claim to fame. It was home to Chef Marcus Blackwood. He was a culinary genius. His breakfasts were legendary. People came from miles around to taste his creations. His bacon was crisp perfection. His eggs were cloud-like dreams. Marcus's little diner was always packed. The wait for a table could be hours, but no one minded. The food was worth it. Marcus worked tirelessly. He was up before dawn every day. He personally selected every ingredient. His dedication was unmatched. The town loved Marcus. He put Whispering Hollow on the map. Food critics raved about his dishes. Travel shows featured his diner. For a while, it seemed the sleepy mountain town had found its golden ticket. Marcus was destined for greatness. Everyone said so, but fate can be cruel. And in Whispering Hollow, fate wore a chef's hat. No one could have predicted what would happen next. Not Marcus, not the town, not the eager diners who flocked to his restaurant. The stage was set for tragedy, and tragedy, like the mist, was about to roll in. It was a night like any other. Marcus was in his kitchen. He was preparing for the next day's rush. The clock struck midnight. The town was asleep, but Marcus worked on. He was perfecting a new recipe, something spectacular, something that would cement his legacy. Then it happened. A spark, a flame, a roaring inferno. The kitchen erupted in fire. Grease fed the blaze. It spread with terrifying speed. Marcus was trapped. He fought through the flames. His skin blistered. His hair burned. His beautiful face melted away. Somehow Marcus survived, but he was changed, horribly disfigured. His hands, once so deft with a spatula, were now gnarled claws. His face was a nightmare of scar tissue. The doctors did what they could. It wasn't enough. Marcus was never the same. The town whispered. They stared. Children cried at the sight of him. Marcus retreated from the world. He vanished into the misty woods. For years no one saw him, but they heard things. Strange sounds in the night, and sometimes on the wind the smell of bacon and eggs. Section 4, the irresistible lure of sizzling temptation. It started with disappearances, just one or two at first, people who wandered out at night. They never came home. The police searched. They found nothing, but everyone knew. It was him, the Bacon and Egg Man. He was back, and he was hungry. The smell would come on the night air, rich, savory, irresistible. It made your mouth water, your stomach growl. You'd find yourself following it. Even if you didn't want to, your feet would move on their own, deeper into the misty woods, farther from safety. Those who resisted told terrifying tales. They spoke of a figure in the mist, tall, misshapen, wearing a stained chef's coat, his face hidden in shadow, but his eyes glowed like embers, and always, always that maddening smell of bacon and eggs. The Bacon and Egg Man became Whispering Hollow's boogeyman. Parents warned their children, "Be good or he'll cook you up." But it wasn't just children who feared him. Adults trembled too, for they knew the truth. The Bacon and Egg Man was real, and he was waiting. Section 5, trapped in a nightmare of endless feasts. Those who succumbed to the smell were never seen again, not as they were anyway, but sometimes deep in the woods, hikers would stumble upon something. Clearings filled with tables, checkered cloths, fine china, and seated around them figures, not quite human anymore. These poor souls were the Bacon and Egg Man's guests, forced to eat forever. Platters piled high with eggs, mountains of bacon. It never stopped coming. They ate and ate. Their bellies swelled, their skin turned pale and clammy, like uncooked dough, but still they ate. The Bacon and Egg Man presided over these nightmarish banquets. He moved among his guests with terrible grace, refilling plates, urging them to eat more, his scarred face twisted in a grotesque smile. This was his revenge, his masterpiece, a never-ending breakfast of the damned. Survivors, the few who escaped, babbled of horrors. They spoke of humans turning into living breakfast foods, skin crisping like bacon, eyes becoming runny and yellow, the bacon and egg man's laughter echoing through the trees, a sound of sizzling grease and cracking shells. Section 6, a town gripped by fear and superstition. Whispering Hollow changed after that. The mist seemed thicker, darker. People hurried through their days. They cast nervous glances at the woods. No one lingered outside after sunset. The smell of bacon became taboo. Eggs were whispered about in hushed tones. Protective rituals sprang up. Salt on windowsills, garlic hung by doors. Not traditional protections, but the town was desperate. Some wore necklaces of tiny plastic bacon strips. Others painted their doors with egg yolk. Anything to ward off the bacon and egg man. The diner where it all began stood empty. No one dared buy it. At night, some swore they saw lights inside, heard the clatter of pans, smelled that terrible, wonderful aroma. But come morning, all was still. The diner remained dark and silent, a monument to what once was, and what now lurked in the shadows. To this day, Whispering Hollow remains a town of whispers and fear. When night falls, doors are locked, curtains drawn. Parents hold their children close, and everyone, young and old, says a silent prayer. Please, they whisper to the darkness, don't let him find me, don't let me smell the bacon and eggs. For in Whispering Hollow, breakfast isn't the most important meal of the day, it's the most terrifying.